Oop, I did it again. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's virtual keeper chat. This is Carrie. I am the Curator of Education here, and I am joined today by our Assistant Director, Shara, and two of our keepers, Kay and Katie. And in the background there, you can see maybe Miss Emily, the Asian elephant, who you met a couple weeks ago during our virtual keeper chat. And as promised today, the star of the show is going to be our other Asian elephant, Ruthie. So Ruthie here is, like I said, joined by her keepers, Kay and Katie. And we're here, you're gonna mostly be hearing Shara talking. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Shara, who's going to introduce you to Miss Ruthie and tell you a little bit about her story. And then the keepers are going to do a little training session with her, and we'll go from there.
All right, so I will just sort of narrate a little bit as the keepers are going along with their training session with Ruth. That way she does not have to wait, but I'll be talking while they go ahead. And Ruth is one of two of our Asian elephants here at the zoo. We have Ruth and Emily. You met Emily last week, and so Ruth is 61 years young this year, and I say young, although she actually is considered an older animal at this point, and is in fact one of the oldest elephants in the population here in AZA accredited zoos. She's in the top 10. She's actually within the top 5 oldest animals in that population. So she has been with us since 1986. She was actually a rescued animal that came to us as a result of being in conditions that were not all that great for her. She was owned by a private owner who really wasn't taking care of her very well, and she was confiscated and moved to our facility because we had another elephant already here, that's Emily, and we had the facilities and the staff to better take care of her better than the situation that she was in. So the training session that you're watching this morning is something we do with the elephants on a daily basis. You're going to see Kay asking for different behaviors that Ruthie knows how to do. She's got a treat bucket today. What's in the treat bucket today for her?
Apples. Let's see. Apples, there was oranges, cantaloupe, apples and cantaloupe right now.
Okay, so they're using some small chopped up produce, which are little treats that Ruthie likes. And the behaviors they're asking for are those behaviors that we work on with them on a daily basis that really help us take better care of them. So you can see she's asked Ruthie to line up along the fence line, and that gives you a good view of her right side from basically from the front of her face all the way back to her tail. So that gives the keepers a chance to get a good look at her skin, a good look at both legs on that side, up near her head, a good look at her right eye, her right ear, and that's a behavior we work on pretty much on a daily basis. Some of the other behaviors you may see today might involve her turning around the other way, might involve oh, she's vocalizing now, so that's also another behavior that Ruthie is really good at. What you're hearing is sort of a trumpet that is one of the many vocalizations that she makes, and it's a behavior that we sort of shaped. It's a noise she makes naturally, but over time she realizes when she gives that behavior she's going to get a treat, so that's why she's repeating it so often.
Do you want to talk a little bit about how when we're observing Ruth eating, it's very different than when Emily was eating?
Yep. So one of the ways, an easy way to tell Ruth and Emily apart is actually the way they eat and their trunks. So Emily's face is much wider and her trunk is much wider. Ruth has a very narrow trunk, and you'll see when she goes to take a bite of this hay, she's actually going to swing her trunk up to her mouth. And that's actually because at some point in her life, we're not sure when, it was before she ever came to us, she did have some sort of an injury to her trunk that has left the center portion, so this sort of portion right down somewhere in here, she has a partial paralysis. So she actually needs to swing that trunk up rather than just lift the trunk up to her mouth. She has learned to compensate over the years magnificently. She does not have any issues with getting food up to her mouth. Obviously, she's 61 and she's, she's been eating through her entire life. She's learned to sort of modify the things that she needs to do with that trunk to be able to do everything that she needs to do.
Gwen, age 10, wants to know on that issue of training, does she have words or commands that you use?
Yep. So with these guys, there's a couple of different types of cues. Some of them are verbal, so it's a verbal cue. And you can see Kay pointing to that foot, so there's a little bit of a visual cue there. Sometimes we will use our hand or use a hand signal. With some animals, you might use just a verbal, or it could be the positioning of where you place yourself next to the animal. But these girls recognize well over 60 different verbal cues.
Ryan, age 12, wants to know if you use a target pole ever with the elephants.
Yep. So whenever we're training a new behavior, a lot of times the target pole comes into play because it is something they're familiar with. And we do use the target pole quite a bit. Now, these girls have been here a long time, and like I said, they recognize over 60 different verbal cues. So those are all behaviors that they know. So there's no need to use the target pole to sort of help cue them. They're cues that they do recognize.
We talk a lot in these keeper chats about animals' intelligence. Do you want to talk a little bit about the Asian elephant's intelligence?
Yep. So a lot of studies have been done with elephants, and they have found that elephants actually are self-aware, or they self-recognize. So what that means is if we were to put a mirror in front of Ruthie, she would know that that's her in the mirror. And they've done that by doing things like bringing in a very large mirror and putting something on the elephant and then showing them their reflection in the mirror, and the elephants have indicated that they're aware that something has been placed on their body or on their face. So you're getting a good look at the tip of her trunk there. That's called a finger.
Kaiden, age 9, wants to know how much she weighs.
So we weigh these guys on a monthly basis, and monitoring their weight is really important, especially as they're older, to make sure that they don't get too heavy or too thin. So her last weight was 6,400 pounds, Kay is telling me. So that's a little over 3 tons.
Logan, age 8, wants to know if Asian elephants have any predators in the wild.
So in the wild, a full-grown Asian elephant is not usually going to succumb to any of the predator species like tigers. A very sick or an injured animal, or a very young animal like an elephant calf, tiger would probably be a top predator. But believe it or not, one of the biggest issues these guys face in the wild is actually conflicts with humans. In their native ranges, there's a very high population of people, and that creates a situation where there's not a whole lot of room for elephants. So the type of things you see affecting elephants are going to be things like roads and traffic and trains, and just conflict with, say, farmers, where the elephants are going through their farmland and sort of raiding their crops. So unfortunately, the two-legged predator is probably the most dangerous for these guys.
Miles, age 10, is wondering how she injured her trunk.
We don't know that. We really don't. The records from before Ruth came to us were very slim. There wasn't a lot of information. I was actually here when she came in, so I know that the trunk issue that she had when she came to us. So we don't know. Some sort of a traumatic injury or event happened to create that situation, and we've just done our best to make sure that the mobility that she does have has stayed the same, if not improved, since she's been with us.
Great. Can you just remind us, for those of us who joined us a little late, who we're meeting and how old she is?
All right. So this is Ruthie. She's our 61-year-old Asian elephant. She came to us in 1986. And has been here ever since, and she is one of the oldest elephants in the elephant population in AZA zoos.
And you can see back behind her to the left is Emily. She had her time in the spotlight a couple weeks ago, so it's Ruthie's turn today.
One of the things I can point out, if you come to the zoo on a regular basis, Ruth is actually very dark right now compared to how she usually is, and she got a moisturizing oil bath. It was a spa day here at the zoo the other day. So you can see her skin looks really, really dark, and that's a result of mineral oil that the keepers applied, and we do that during the winter and a couple of other times during the year to help sort of loosen up dead skin, keep her skin moisturized, and keep it in good shape.
I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Hi, Emily, age 6. She would like to know what kinds of food she likes other than hay.
So elephants are browsers, and so they like to both graze on grass. Hay is definitely one of their preferred food items here at the zoo. We feed a lot of browse to them, especially when the trees start producing leaves. So there's all sorts of different types of trees that they like.
You guys.
Maple is a particular favorite of theirs. Willow. What are some of their other favorites? Autumn olive is another one. And then you saw the treat bucket with that produce chopped up, and so those are also favorite items. There's a lot of fruits and veggies. I will say with Ruth, which is a little bit different from Emily because she is an older animal, is actually considered a geriatric animal. There's lots of things that we have to do for her that we don't do for Emily right now, who's a little bit younger. And one of those things is actually chopping up the hay for her. She is on her last set of teeth, and they're pretty worn down. So for her to eat really long strands of hay, it's difficult for her to digest. So we actually chop up her hay into smaller pieces to make it easier for her to eat. We do the same thing with her fruits and veggies, and some of her favorite hard veggies like sweet potato we'll actually cook for her to make it a little bit softer. You're looking at the skin right now and some of the different pigmentation. So that really varies from animal to animal and different spots on the animal as well. So you can kind of see that freckling. If she were a little bit lighter, it would look almost a pink color, and then other areas of her skin are a much darker gray.
All right, I want to thank Cindy and Melody for donating. We really appreciate your support. Ryan, age 12, wants to know, what is the average lifespan for an Asian elephant?
So when you talk about lifespan and life expectancy, if you were to look at, say, a human, humans can live to over 100, maybe 102, 105, but the average is in their 80s. In elephants, they can live into their 70s, but the actual average is mid-40s. So Ruth at 61 has actually surpassed, the average life expectancy. Emily has as well, and she could very easily be with us for another 10 to 15 years, but it would not be unusual for an animal her age to pass away. Thankfully, she's very healthy at the moment. And everything we do on a daily basis helps to keep her that way.
So she's definitely getting excited about what Kay has over here.
Yep.
Can we talk a little bit about the enrichment she's getting?
So this is an enrichment item, which is sort of a puzzle feeder for her. And we do this with all of our animals pretty much on a daily basis. We're providing some sort of enrichment, a way to stimulate their mind, get them to interact with things physically. So there's something in there she's trying to figure out how to get out. My guess is it's probably some sort of a food treat.
Yep, it's a treat bag.
It's a treat bag.
So she's really showing, although she has a disability in her trunk, she has really learned how to work with it. I think she's a really great example for us. Sorry, for some reason my connection got a little slow there for a reason. I apologize for that. Make sure I've got... Looks like we're back on, so it's okay.
If we watch her, she may try some different methods. This is apparently the flip and toss method.
Let me get back
and
to...
now she's going to try the...
It's really in there.
It is really in there. But this is one of the goals of providing them with different types of enrichment and puzzle feeders, is to give them the opportunity to really figure out how to get to the bottom of it.
An elephant enrichment needs to be much bigger, it looks like, than
It does,
our normal
and
enrichment.
It needs to be stronger. So some of the toys you see in the yard are made out of tires and heavy-duty ropes, things that they cannot break easily.
And they can take things apart too, right?
They can with that tip of their trunk, with that finger. It almost works like a hand and an index finger, and whatever they're able to grasp, they can sort of manipulate with the tip of that trunk.
Kaiden, age 9, we get this question. We love this question, Kaiden. Does she have a favorite keeper?
We have a favorite keeper. So the people that work with our elephants have been working with them for a long time, and that's one of the keys to working with elephants, is to really establish a long-term and a very good relationship. So Kay's been with them for a long time. She might not say it, but I will say it. I think that Ruth has a particularly strong bond with Kay, who's been really with her for 19 years. Yeah, 19 years.
So Kay was the person that you saw doing the training session with Ruth.
Correct. Is she getting it out?
Quinn, age 6, wants to know if she can jump.
Elephants are not good jumpers. They're very heavy, and they're built really for walking more than jumping. She's right at the edge, is what Kay is saying, so she might be able to reach it with the tip of her trunk. And you can see she's not giving up, which again is actually
We're going to use our foot too.
With Enrichment.
Gwen, age 10, wants to know if they're social. Enrichment is stuck in there in a bag.
Worked it down to the end.
Are they social with other species of animals?
So they are very social animals to begin with. In the wild, they live in large familial herds. So usually there's a lead female or a matriarch. A lot of her daughters, children, grandchildren. The males are more solitary. Sometimes they form bachelor herds, so they're definitely social within their own species. And my assumption is in the wild they occasionally are coming across other species, but I don't think they really live with other species so much as they sort of appear within their environment.
Angie, age 9, wants to know what they would eat in the wild.
So in the wild, like I said, they are browsers, so they're going to move from place to place looking for food. It takes a lot of food to keep an animal this size going. So they're going to be grazing on grasses and shrubs and bushes, browsing on branches as they come across fruit or berries, nuts, things like that in the wild. They would be consuming those as well. They are vegetarian, so plant material is the basis of their diet.
Miles, age 10, is noticing that Emily and Ruth have been away from each other. He's asking if they were next to one another, would they fight?
No, we actually, because we had Emily last week do the keeper chat, we decided to actually give her the opportunity to go to that back area and provide her with some enrichment, just basically so we could focus on Ruth. During the day, the gate is open and you can find them grazing side by side, interacting. They occasionally move away from each other. Sometimes one wants to nap while one's exploring or grazing. So at any given point during the day, you may find them together or apart.
Great. So we have a friend, Angela, who says, that's my girl, Ruthie. I love you, sweetie. I think she missed her during Emily, so she's glad that she came over for her turn today. It sounds like maybe she took care of her at one time and knows that she likes blueberries and other fruit.
Oh.
Kaiden, age 9, wants to know what the difference between an African and an Asian elephant is.
So they are two separate species that sort of have evolved separately over time. If you had one standing right next to Ruth right now, you'd see some physical differences. African elephants tend to be taller and larger. Their ears are very different. So an African's ears are much, much larger, designed basically because Africa has much warmer temperatures, so to help thermoregulate, they have those very large ears that help sort of dissipate heat. So African elephants are very large. Asian elephant ears are much smaller. If you look at the top of their heads, Asian elephants have those two humps where the Africans have one. There's some differences in their nails, but really the easiest way and quickest way for most people to tell them apart is by their ears.
How fast can they run? George would like to know.
Ooh, so again, they're not really designed to be runners so much as walkers. But having said that, their gait is obviously, because they are so large, a lot longer than, say, a human. So upwards of 20 miles an hour, they can really get going.
Keith, thank you for your donation. Annie and Harper would like to know what her skin feels like.
So elephant skin is kind of interesting because although it feels rough, it can also be very sensitive. So right now it feels very oily because they had mineral oil applied. I'm trying to think about what to equate it to. It's definitely not soft or silky smooth. And Ruth actually has quite a bit of, she has hairs pretty much all over her body. So as you're rubbing your hand on here, you feel the hair, as well as, again, we're coming off of winter, so we're doing that mineral oil to sort of knock off some of the dead skin. So it feels wrinkly when you pet Emily, because she does have a lot more wrinkles than Ruth.
Are the wrinkles due to her age, or do they get wrinklier with age?
No, it really is, it varies from elephant to elephant. You can have some that are very wrinkly and some that are very smooth. It's more an individual characteristic than just an elephant characteristic.
Trinity Heaven, age 7, would like to know, do we know where she was born?
We do not. That's one of the things with both of our elephants. We know that they were probably wild born and imported at a time when there were a lot of elephants moving around and from country to country. So we do not have an exact birth location for her.
Answer that. How long is their trunk?
Oh, that's a good question. So, well, I'm 5'2", so I'm gonna say it's from just below her eyes to the tip of her trunk is probably about 5'5".
All right, so about as long as most of your parents probably are.
Yeah, are tall. Yeah.
Are tall, yes. If they had baby elephants, would they play with each other? So we've been seeing a lot of animals that play is a really important part of their life.
Yep. So again, elephants being really social and living in the wild in herds, absolutely there's a lot of opportunities for play. And baby elephants tend to be very quick and very playful, and the entire herd really looks out for them. So typically when you have a calf born in an elephant herd, there are various ages represented in the herd, and so definitely the younger animals will play with the calves, and that's how they learn, is through play. So it's an important part of the sort of growing period for them.
Matthew would like to know if Ruth has ever been a mom.
Nope, neither one of our elephants have ever been a mom. And at this age, it would be actually probably dangerous for them because they've never had a calf. And most elephants start having calves in their much younger years, in their early 20s.
Angie, age 9, wants to know why they have those hairs.
So elephants, again, it varies from individual to individual. I don't know if you can get a look at the top of her where you can kind of see the little individual hairs. And it really is an individual thing. Again, there are some elephants that have a lot more hair than Ruthie and some that have a lot less. It would not be surprising to me that some of the hair growth we see here is a result of the fact that it does get cooler during the winter, and so that might help acclimate them a little bit, but it's not the same thing as having a full fur coat.
Annie and Harper would like to know, because they have really big ears, do they have really good hearing?
They do. Elephants have, their hearing is one of their strong senses. Smell is probably their best sense. But elephants are interesting because they can actually hear a lot of sounds that we don't hear. So one of the ways they communicate is through something called infrasound, which is really low frequency sounds that carry long distances. So in the wild, they would be, making those very low rumbling sounds that we don't even hear, but that other elephants can pick up.
Ryan, age 12, wants to know if they ever go in the pool. Do they like to swim?
They do. Over the years, as they've gotten older, we've seen that they use the pool a little bit less, but what they like to do is actually go right to the edge and splash themselves. A lot like folks at the beach that really don't want to go all the way into the water. They'll walk halfway in and kind of spritz themselves. We found that Emily really likes to go in the pool, you know, late in the day or even in the early evening. So over the years, they've used it a lot of different ways.
Miles, age 10, wants to know, does she usually make that noise, or when does she vocalize the most?
Oh, the trumpeting that you heard at the beginning of the chat was, she knew that, did you actually ask her? Okay, so Kay actually asked her to vocalize. So it is a cue that they, you know, that they recognize, but it is one of the sounds she makes, you know, on a regular basis. So at any given day, if you know, they're excited, they make different vocalizations, and Ruth's got a few in her repertoire. She's got one that sounds like a raspberry.
Let me see if I can get her
as
eyelashes.
well as the trumpet.
She has beautiful eyelashes.
She does have beautiful eyelashes. And there's another vocalization that's a low rumble and almost a roar.
You see those long eyelashes? All right, I think we made it through all of our wonderful questions. As always, you guys amaze us with all those great questions. I want to thank Miss Ruthie for letting us share her story with you today, and for Shara for sharing it, and Kay and Katie for providing us with that fun enrichment to watch and taking such good care of her. If you missed any part of this, we will post the whole video afterwards. We hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much to those of you who donated. Your support helps us to keep these education programs happening. So thank you so much for that. We will see you again tomorrow at 11, and have a good day.